Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Bachelor Nation News. Fans, imagine a love story where the odds were stacked so high the world whispered they'll never make it. Yet against every doubt, every headline, and every shadow of uncertainty, they chose each other. Today we take you into the extraordinary journey of Kat and Dale, two souls who found themselves not just in love, but in a fight against the world. This isn't just a recap of reality TV. It's about resilience, about trust, and about what it truly means to choose love when the cameras stop rolling. By the end of this episode, you'll see why their story matters far beyond the rose ceremonies, and how Kat and Dale's bond carries lessons for all of us. So pour your coffee, settle in, and let's dive deep into a love story that is both unexpected and unforgettable. They say you don't forget the moment your heart skips a beat. For Kat, that moment was wrapped in surprise. It wasn't a fairy tale entrance, but something quieter, something unshakable. Dale didn't stride in with the loudest voice or the most dramatic presence. Instead, he offered what Kat later called an unexplainable calm. And for Dale, Kat was the spark he didn't see coming. While others played roles, she was genuine, grounded, and warm. Qualities that shine brighter when the cameras are rolling. The audience saw chemistry, but behind their first smiles was something deeper, a connection that neither of them had the courage to name aloud just yet. But of course, sparks are fragile, and not everyone wanted to see this flame grow. From the very beginning, their closeness stirred whispers. Fans, contestants, even producers began to weave their own stories. Was it too fast? Too good to be true? In the world of reality television, where suspicion is often louder than truth, Kat and Dale became a magnet for criticism. Social media flooded with doubt. Some viewers accused them of being calculated, others claimed Kat was chasing fame, and still others suggested Dale wasn't sincere. The pressure was crushing, and for many couples from this world, it's often the beginning of the end. But Kat and Dale didn't crumble. They chose silence when words would only fuel the fire. They chose private moments over public performances, and slowly they began to show that love doesn't need to be defended, it needs protecting. And yet, silence came at a cost, because the quieter they were, the louder the world grew. Behind the curtain of cameras and commentary, Kat and Dale faced struggles few ever saw. Their relationship was young, fragile, and suddenly burdened with the expectations of millions. Arguments flared, trust was tested. One night, Dale admitted to Kat, "I don't know if I can carry all of this." It wasn't about love, it was about weight. The weight of being watched, of being doubted, of being torn apart by strangers who didn't even know their middle names. Kat, in her own way, shouldered that fear. She told him, "Then let me carry it with you." And in that moment, their story shifted. This wasn't just about attraction anymore. It was about survival, about becoming a team. But every team faces its breaking point, and theirs came in a way neither of them expected. There was a season when Kat and Dale almost walked away. Misunderstandings piled up, careers pulled them in different directions, and with headlines magnifying every tiny crack, it felt easier to part than to push through. But here's where their story becomes extraordinary. Instead of ending it, they paused. They gave themselves permission to be human, to admit mistakes, to say, "I'm hurt, but I'm not done." That pause became their salvation. Where other couples from this franchise folded under pressure, Kat and Dale found a way back to the center, the quiet place where it had all started. The place where it wasn't about cameras or contracts, but about two people asking, do we still choose each other? And that yes wasn't just whispered in private, it became a declaration that shocked fans across the world. When Kat and Dale returned to the public eye, it was nothing short of a revelation. Gone were the hesitations, gone were the awkward half smiles. This time, they stood tall, unapologetic, and united. Fans who once doubted them began to soften. There was something undeniable in the way Dale looked at Kat, something unwavering in the way Kat defended Dale. They weren't just surviving anymore, they were thriving. And in that, they proved something powerful. Love doesn't need to be perfect to be real. It just needs to be chosen over and over again. But what came next would test them in ways no red carpet, no interview, no podcast could prepare them for. Life beyond reality TV isn't a fairy tale. Bills, family expectations, long distance, careers, all the ordinary challenges we all know came rushing in. And yet, Kat and Dale handled them in extraordinary ways. They shut the door on outside noise. They leaned on faith, on family, and on the promise they made when no one else was watching. For them, love became less about proving the world wrong and more about proving to each other that together they could handle anything. That's where the title Against the World truly comes alive. Not because they wanted enemies, but because they discovered that sometimes the world simply doesn't understand the love you're building. And that's okay. So what do we take away from Kat and Dale's journey? Not just that love can survive public doubt, not just that two people can outlast the noise, but that real love isn't about roses or champagne toasts. It's about the quiet, daily choice to stand side by side when it feels impossible. For every person watching today, whether you've lived through decades of marriage or whether you're still searching for that spark, Kat and Dale's story is a reminder. Love isn't defined by how the world sees it. It's defined by how you live it. And sometimes the most powerful love stories aren't the perfect ones. They're the ones that survive anyway. Kat and Dale chose each other again and again. And in that choice, they found not just romance, but resilience, a lesson we can all carry no matter where we are in our journey.
Two hearts colliding in the most unexpected way. A television show filled with roses and drama, and a world that said, they won't last. But Kat and Dale? Oh, they had other plans. Today, we're diving deep into their journey, not just as reality TV stars, but as two souls who dared to stand against the odds. Welcome to Bachelor Happy Hour, and welcome to a story that will surprise you, inspire you, and maybe even change the way you see love itself. Because let's be honest, how often do we hear about love stories where everyone is rooting against the couple, and yet, somehow, against all predictions, they keep proving people wrong? Stay with me until the end, because the most shocking part of Kat and Dale's journey isn't the drama. It's the resilience, and the lesson it leaves for all of us. The beginning. A love no one saw coming. Kat and Dale's story didn't begin the way fairy tales usually do. There was no calm setting, no candlelit dinner away from the world. Instead, their connection sparked on a stage designed for tension, heartbreak, and spectacle. The Bachelor. And yet, from the very first moment, something felt different. Dale's confidence wasn't just showmanship, it was grounded. Kat's warmth wasn't just camera-ready, it was real. While others were playing for attention, the two of them seemed to be caught in their own bubble, as if whispering to each other in a crowded room. But here's the thing, sometimes the brightest sparks draw the harshest criticism. And for Kat and Dale, their beginning was as much about battling skepticism as it was about falling in love. The public doubts. It won't last. If you were watching at the time, you'll remember. The headlines weren't kind. Viewers on social media were ruthless. Even fellow castmates raised eyebrows. Too fast, they said. Too forced, they claimed. This isn't love, it's television. Kat and Dale were painted as naive dreamers blinded by the spotlight. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of folding under pressure, they seemed to dig their heels in deeper. They didn't respond with angry posts or defensive interviews. They responded with something stronger. Unity. And unity, my friends, is the one thing critics can't dismantle. But unity doesn't mean perfection. Behind the smiles, Kat and Dale faced their own trials. They argued. They stumbled. And yes, for a time, it seemed like the doubters might be right. The tabloids screamed breakup, rumors swirled of betrayals, misunderstandings, and incompatibility. For many watching, it looked like the end. But here's where the story turns, because sometimes the cracks in a foundation don't mean collapse. Sometimes they mean repair. Instead of walking away, Kat and Dale did something most reality TV couples never attempt. They stepped out of the spotlight and into real life. No cameras, no staged dates, just two people asking, do we want this for real? And the answer, against all odds, was yes. They went to therapy. They traveled together. They allowed themselves to be messy, imperfect, and most importantly, human. The very thing people mocked them for, moving too fast, turned into their greatest strength. Because when you know, but when you fight for it, you grow. The return, stronger than ever. Months later, when Kat and Dale reappeared together, people were stunned. They didn't look broken. They didn't look fragile. They looked stronger. It wasn't the shiny, surface-level kind of strength. It was quiet, steady, the kind of strength that comes from falling apart and rebuilding, brick by brick, hand in hand. And for their fans, and even their critics, it was hard not to admit, maybe, just maybe, this was real love after all. Lessons from their love story. Now here's why this story matters beyond the TV drama. Kat and Dale remind us of something we often forget, especially later in life. Love isn't about perfection. It isn't about everyone approving of your choices. Love, real love, is about resilience. It's about choosing each other when the world gives you every reason not to. And isn't that something we can all relate to? Think back on your own life, the times you stood against the odds, the times you said yes when others said no. That's the kind of courage Kat and Dale's story awakens in all of us. The future, still against the world. Today, Kat and Dale are still together, still standing strong, and still proving that their love is nobody's business but their own. Will there be more challenges ahead? Of course! Every couple has them. But here's the surprising part. The more the world doubts them, the more they seem to thrive. Because some couples need approval to survive, Kat and Dale, they only need each other. So what do we take away from Kat and Dale's journey? That love isn't about timelines. It isn't about what the world thinks. It isn't about being flawless. Love is about choosing, again and again, to fight for someone you believe in. And maybe that's the real reason their story matters. Because whether you're 25 or 65, we all crave that kind of devotion, the kind of love that says, it's you and me against the world. And for Kat and Dale, that's not just a slogan, that's their reality. So the next time someone tells you something can't be done, remember their story. Because the most surprising love stories aren't the ones without obstacles. They're the ones that endure, no matter what the world says. And that, my friends, is Kat and Dale's story, not just as reality TV stars, but as living proof that sometimes the world is wrong, and love, if you let it, is stronger than anything standing in its way.